QAP meeting. And Terry, go ahead and start your work.
Thank you so much, and I'll beg indulgences. I'm the host today. I don't have Amy's able assistance, and so I will be sharing my screen and hoping that I capture all the details that she used to do. I would go down this list. I'm just going to go down this list of participants as I know it. In addition to CHFA staff, Kathy McKinnon is on, Commissioner Mosquera-Bruno, Tim Hudges. Let me see. I saw Lisa Tepper-Bates, Mark Shelburne, our consultant, and Kylie Goslin. So I think that's all of our task force. And I know the board went longer. I don't know if you still have an hour, but there were a few things I wanted to kind of accomplish today. If you'd like me to abbreviate, I certainly will. I know one of the things, the first thing we were going to talk about was we were just going to go over briefly the Housing Authority Roundtable, but I think Nantini described that in her remarks at the board, so I don't know that we need to go over it, and there's extensive information in your package, so we can skip that.
Commissioner, for my part, and others might have the same constraint, I have a hard stop at 12. I don't know about others.
I thought that might be the case, so I'm just going to kind of, I'm going to kind of try to go quickly through the priorities and see if we can focus on a couple of things. We wanted to just go over the rollout of the new opportunity map and the implications for the 2022 round, reaffirm the weights and the points incentives that we are creating when we've introduced the new sustainability design measures. I wanted to confirm our schedule and also just to give you an idea of potential changes staff is looking at with transit-oriented development. So that can wait also for the next time we meet, but probably the most important would be just to look at opportunity, at the weights, and the schedule. So let me begin to share my screen. And hopefully, can you see this agenda?
Yes.
And I'm scrolling past. Okay, so I'm going to just go past the report that you have in your package and the Housing Authority Exhibit 1, which includes the sustainability design measures that we shared with the Housing Authority, and move on to the opportunity characteristics. This was Exhibit 2 in your package and is a representation of what the new scoring might look like, recognizing that the new map has encompassed all of the criteria that we used to have and then some, and it's also based on census tract. We tried to figure a better way to apply points to the census tract designations, and we used exactly what they are when you put your address into the map: very high, high, moderate, low, and very low. So you'll see that we didn't change the points in totality, but we've put the highest points at very high, 9 points there, 8 points for high. On the other end of the spectrum, there's no point if you're in a very low opportunity area, 2 for low, and 6 for the moderate. Do you have any thoughts or comments on how we are putting these scores out? Remember that the scores that we have, the totality is the same as it was. We're still keeping the municipalities having less assisted and deed restricted housing at 6 points. So it was 15 points last year. It'll be 15 points in the 2022 round. The impact, though, and I just want to share this particular piece, the impact on, say, the applicants in the last round would be fairly dramatic. So that's in the package as well. And you could see how the scores using the map that the applicants did, the current map for 2020, 2021, are reflected in this left column. The new scoring is quite different. There's many that would have no opportunity for a points award. And then there are some that stay the same and some that just go down. You could see. So one thought was to mitigate this dramatic shift is to say grandfather in applicants who came in during 2019 and 20 with the same exact development who want to reapply in 2022 could use the old map because that's how they designed their program. But after that, you know, everyone else, any newcomers and everyone after that comes in with the new map. Are there any thoughts on the grandfathering or, you know, trying to accommodate developers? It might not be that many that will actually reapply that have been funded, but just a thought to try to mitigate that transition.
I think that's a good idea, Terry, and I think it's fair to developers who we know invest a lot of time and effort into developing these proposals.
Thank you, Lisa. Kathy, did
Terry,
you have a comment?
Yeah, what was the lowest and highest, or low, I guess it would be 0, but what was the highest number of points you could get in the old map?
9.
9.
It was
okay.
9 as well, yeah.
Okay.
So you see, like, Lascana Homes last year got a 9. The new map, they would have only gone to an 8, but it's orange. You know, and you could see others, like Branford went from an 8 to a 6. Okay. But most dramatically, other developments went from 5 to 0. So that's, you know, pretty significant. So, does anyone have any opposition to that, or is Lisa's?
So I do want to make a comment, and I thought that we were going to give some points to projects that have a comprehensive approach in neighborhood revitalization, because it's a significant amount, and I will have to look at the points from this round. If those 5 points made a difference, and I'm looking at the Dixwell, 340 plus Dixwell, that had a 5-point score, and then it goes to 0. So those developments will never, I mean, everything will be first the opportunity projects than any other projects. And that does not have it's not level with what we're trying to accomplish. So I think that we do need to take a look a little more at this. And I don't know, I mean, Kathy and Charlie, you guys should chime in.
Me, Charlie? Oh,
I
yes. I was having a little panic attack when I saw that here. I think the grandfather thing makes sense, and I think where you're going, maybe, Commissioner, is, you know, multi-phase sites, right? Because you know that a lot of these things where you see phases 1, phases 2, obviously phase 4 for us, you know, there's 3 more phases to be done there. It would just kill that work there. And I think you're right to look at the scoring, but I think there's, you know, our scoring this year was a little bit better, only just because we got a little luckier, because we got 4 points for the category of cost per unit, because it was only 4 of us in that group. So those are points we don't usually get. So if you take those away and you took the other 5, Westbrook, you know, I'm thinking Westbrook phase 5 wouldn't qualify for under this rubric. Doing some quick math in my head. So
Terry, could we move to instead have some type of grandfathering in for these projects that might reapply, as well as, would it make sense to also grandfather in additional phases of previous projects to allow them to use the previous point score? I think that, Charlie, maybe the direction that you're pointing here, which would seem to make some sense.
Yeah.
That's a good point, too. Alternatively, we don't need to have these weights. You know, we don't need to have these heavy weights. We've got, you know, I met with John Cabral, who has done extensive work with Opportunity, and we were considering how to kind of put points that would essentially be similar to last time, but the impact was significant. So I don't know if John has any thoughts on it.
Yeah, quick thing. So just, and maybe I misunderstand here. The current thing you have, the current thing that's on the screen right now with the current points in the new map, I believe that would not count those plans that Sailor brought up, because this is strictly looking at the opportunity map, which didn't have that as a points item. Exactly. So this is just looking at those opportunity points. So those 5 points, Sailor, that you mentioned would not be in this measure here.
So in which category would that be in?
I believe that's Terry, I believe that's a separate category, is it not?
Right, we talked about it. It could go here. It could go wherever the board would like it to be. We thought about putting it into rental affordability, putting it as its own measure. But this also, I should point out, doesn't count the DOH 830G map points. We have, so that isn't counted in here. This is strictly the points related to what we used to have for opportunity characteristics.
Yeah, this is Kylie. I'll chime in and say that I support the new weights. I think they're appropriate given the direction, given the conversation we just had in mortgage committee, for example, about certain neighborhoods in Hartford that are 60 and 70% deed restricted affordable. I think that this is appropriate. It lines up with the weights. I'm fine with grandfathering projects or multi-phase projects that are already in the works, that are, have already planned under the old thing, as long as there's not a loophole where someone can come in and propose something in an area where there wasn't originally a multi-phase plan, and now they're saying this is a new piece of the old plan. So I think we need to be conscious of that, and maybe put a time limit on it too, because ultimately, if we want to move to a place where we're really trying to proactively incentivize development in areas outside of high poverty concentration centers, how long do we want to allow the old map to continue to influence the allocation of credit? So maybe that's another consideration too, that there's grandfathering that goes for 2 years, or, a project, a planned multi-phase project that's already in place at the time this is put in place, and any subsequent phases that were already planned for X, 2 more cycles or 3 more cycles or whatever that is.
I think that more than grandfather in, we do need to think about, and if we have points on the neighborhood revitalization, because we can't, if we just don't have the category that will allow those projects to compete, then basically we're not investing in our neighborhoods. And that's not something that we want. So we wanted to be able to do both. So we'll look at the, Jonathan, if you point me out to, and maybe we can do a little point comparison so that those projects are not being left out.
Well,
it's not because some projects are right now in, but there will be, and we want to be intentional about providing resources to revitalize neighborhoods. And this is with the new administration, because we want to make sure that those investments are there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's that point item was never even in the original opportunity map, the old one, because it is so based on a neighborhood. The old map was based on a town. This map is based on census tracts. So you may have a revitalization plan that may only be a portion of the census tract or multiple census tracts. So it would be hard to capture in this particular points item. We wouldn't be able to, let's say, map it. So it's just, if we include it as a points item, it probably wouldn't fall into this category.
And I agree with that. Also, I want to point out really quickly that Mark Shelburne, who's on here, can also speak up. But originally, when he provided us some of the like a roadmap that we had discussed in one meeting, we had looked at CRPs and QCTs as being a separate item, and that developments that scored under that wouldn't necessarily score under opportunity areas. So I think there is consideration for this thought. We have to figure out where to put it and how to score it.
Yeah, as long, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's there or not, right? If you have another category, but it's just important that we do not lose that.
So I'm not sure I understand. So under the new system, some of the projects here, for instance, might get additional points for some of these other opportunity, points, but not necessarily for the actual location. So does it make sense? I mean, does it make sense to grandfather in just one piece of the old QAP, or should maybe these projects be scored using a whole new QAP? I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but it feels like we're going to take out this one piece for location, grandfather it in, but then these projects may also have opportunities to get additional points elsewhere. So that doesn't really seem fair. And it feels like we either have to pick a QAP or not, And I think, I agree with Kylie. How long do you want a grandfather? So.
Yeah, and I think, Kathy, to your point, and what Nandini mentioned, reminded me of what we have been talking about. I don't think that we need to grandfather in because we're considering both, but it's in different categories. Right. So I was looking, and the opportunity map was that we combined two maps from before. Right. So that's the difference. But we are considering both the community development, comprehensive neighborhood revitalization, giving some priority to the housing authorities' work that they're doing. So yeah, I think we are covered, but I will make sure that we are covered.
So, Commissioner, it sounds like what we're saying is that this is unintentionally a little bit misleading about the effect, right? Because it sounds like that this doesn't really give us a view of the net effect. And so we'd have to understand the net effect of the new scoring rubric to really evaluate this rather than just looking at this narrow slice here. Is that fair?
That is fair. I think that's fair. I think there's more than one location category. You know what I mean? I think there's opportunity category, and then there's QCT, CRP. Is not location specific. I mean, it is location. It's so I see what you're saying. You kind of have to look at all three things. Yeah,
for this map, I think the intention was to show how you compare on the opportunity map, because we only have, but not the whole after the whole. So we should show the whole point system.
That would be perfect. And if we could, and we have like 8 minutes left, and I want to just make sure that if we can reconvene, say, in a couple of weeks with a look at what the proposed new point structure might look like, and then you can react to that. You'll have it ahead of time, and then, with thoughts, and then we can change priorities or whatever meets your needs when we look at it. But we'll be developing that now, because to move to the calendar, what I wanted to see is if we are staying on track with where we are. Where's my calendar? I think it's in the very beginning.
Yeah, one little quick little thing while Terry's looking for that. I think the reason why the analysis was done that way with the opportunity map was, all else being equal, if we only changed the opportunity map itself, those would have been the changes. So if TOD stayed the same, if qualified census tracts stay the same, those would have been the changes. Now, if you change other points items, obviously there'll be more or less impact. So it was really everything else being equal.
Yes, that's a good point, John. Thank you. So we've been right on track up to, today, where we're looking at the partial draft of a specific points areas. We had hoped to bring to the April board a draft that we could then request authority for a public hearing. That public hearing and comment period would then generate potential changes to the QAP that we would again bring forward in May. And with other changes, if maybe there's another need for another hearing, but potentially going April gets us maybe a final approved QAP in June. If we wait until May, then of course we keep going out into the summer, and the sooner we can get something in front of our development partners, the better, so that they can design accordingly as they're working on their projects for the next round. So I'm suggesting then we could meet again, and I know there's a lot on demand on your time, but I'm hoping that maybe April 8th, maybe at 9, or the 15th at 10 might
Yes.
work. Does that work, Tim?
I don't know if that date works, but yes, we should meet again.
Yes, thank you. So I will ask Amy or Bernie to send out some suggested dates, and hopefully we can get something sooner rather than later so that we can finalize a draft that we could share with points in its totality that then we can look at. Okay. So good. I'm glad about that piece. Do you have any other thoughts? One other thing, while we have a couple minutes, I'll just share. And this is, again, just thinking about what the points look like when we remove preservation. And you probably saw this in your package already, but the consequence of the weighting categories changing by virtue of the new sustainability design measures and then taking out the preservation points. So the weighting shifts from being predominantly focused on rental affordability as a priority to financial sustainability, which is really all about the energy efficiency measures. So this is something else we might want to think about, is how to strengthen our rental affordability points incentives so that again becomes the focus in accordance with the strategic plan objectives. We'll have some suggestions for that. Staff is looking internally at what we might be able to include from the strategic plan and the board's earlier articulated goals. So we'll be able to bring those to the next meeting as well.
Perry, thank you for pointing that out, because I don't know about other members of the task force, but I looked at that and I thought, I'm not sure that that's the right direction. So it seems like something we do need to reconsider. Our mandate is affordable housing, and it's great where we can to also be making those steps forward with regard to being more environmentally friendly, but that's not our core mission. And I just think it's important to state that right up front.
Great, thank you, Lisa. I think, yeah, it was surprising, but looking at the weights is always informative. Mark, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share with the task force before we are convening?
Well, just to echo your point about the timing, there's with any endeavor, there's always the notion of, well, if we just take a little bit longer, we can make it a little bit better. And I too often go back to my old soccer coach quotes, and one of them was to take the less than perfect shot. And the point being that eventually you just kind of have to just say, this is what we got, and split it out there and move forward. Otherwise you end up with kind of paralysis by analysis. And so I'm not, certainly not at that point yet, but you don't want to get there.
If this is Kylie, I would just note too that this is a big change. And this is, I think, a shift in a direction. It's a policy statement to the state about affordable housing and about where our money is going to be. And I feel a weight to, at least, to get this right and to take the time to get it right. And so if it takes us one extra month, that's fine. And Charlie and Kathy earmuffs, but developers will figure out if it's 1 month later. I know it makes it more challenging for them, but this is also a 2-year decision we're making. So in the past years, we've come back and tweaked it, and I think it's good that this is a 2-year setup so that there's more certainty for developers. But we're setting in place a pretty big change and something really important. So
thanks, Kylie.
I would just say take our time as we need it. Not obviously, we don't want to go too far, but I think if we feel like we really need to work something out and resolve it and get it right, that we should take the time to do that.
Okay.
Or add more meetings. And I say that understanding that people's times, but I absolutely agree with Kylie that we want to get this right. We don't want to push this out too far, but if we need to add a couple meetings in there, then we should do that.
I really appreciate your commitment to this, the time that you're investing, and I'm going to take you up on the additional meetings because I really think we need them.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Terry, did you need us, Terry, did you need us to approve the previous minutes?
Yes, would you please?
Move.
We have February 25th and March 16 minutes. Can I have a motion?
I think Tim moved and I'll second.
Any questions, discussion? So we'll just, any opposed? We don't have Amy to do the roll call, right? So, okay, unanimous. The motion carries.
Terry, I had one comment on, I don't need an answer to, but on the TOD Exhibit 3, it talked about the proximity to amenities, but there's no definition of proximity.
Yeah, that's new. That's a new concept. We're still working it out. I wanted to share it with you so you saw that this is the kind of direction we were going.
Yeah.
It's certainly not definitive, but thank you for noticing that. Yeah.
I was really glad to see that. Kathy, you're right. It needs more detail, but this is really good because we have talked about the challenge with pushing for mixed use in an environment where that is not working the way we wish it did.
Exactly. Yes. Good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a great rest of the day.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye.